The story begins with a carriage traveling along a narrow path. Looking at a sheet of paper, a young woman said, "So this child is the only candidate?" Another person replied, "Unfortunately, my lady, that is indeed the case for now." Looking ahead at the road, he added, "The path here is quite narrow. It seems we'll have to continue on foot from here." They got out of the carriage and started walking. The young woman said to him, "This road really is too old and narrow for a carriage." She was Carly Browning, president of the Browning Merchant Guild. She said, "Oh well, as long as my candidate is suitable." Harper replied, "Quite so, my lady." Harper Blythe, Carly's assistant, responded as he stood before the door. She asked, "Is this the place?" She knocked on the door and asked, "Is anyone there?" Someone opened the door slightly and asked, "Who is it?" Carly first looked up, then lowered her gaze. A young boy asked, "Who are you?" Carly said, "Oh, I'm not here to sell anything, so don't worry. Although my work is indeed related to buying and selling." The boy cut her off and said, "Not interested." He tried to close the door, but Carly blocked it with her hand and said, Wait. One of the guards shouted, "My lady, please be careful." A guard stepped in front of Carly to protect her and said, "Please stand back, my lady. We will protect you." Carly said, "You're making it look like someone's trying to assassinate me." "I'm Fina. Stand down." The young boy glared at them and asked, "Who exactly are you people?" As Carly studied him, she thought to herself, "So this scrawny little boy is my last remaining candidate?" Carly held out her hand and said, "A pleasure to meet you, Lord Arad. I am Carly Browning, president of the Browning Merchant Guild." Inwardly, she thought, how did things end up like this? 1 month earlier, at the Lily Inn, Harper angrily asked, "General Manager, are you listening?" The manager replied with a tremble, "Oh, of course." Harper said, "Really? With how silent you are, I was beginning to think everything I said went in one ear and out the other." Sweating profusely, the manager said, Harper continued, "Of all days, he chose the very day the president of our guild was staying at an inn operated by our guild, and then brazenly walked straight into her room. This is utterly disgraceful." Carly let out a sigh, yawned, and said, "Oh, sorry. I didn't sleep well last night. Perhaps because someone attacked me while I was asleep." Harper said, "This is no time for jokes. The culprit identified your exact room and broke in, my lady." Recalling the criminal, he added, "Fortunately, he was caught on the spot." But that was not all. At the time of the incident, the front desk employee and the emergency master key had both disappeared, which meant that employee was very likely an accomplice. He said, "This matter concerns not only our president's safety, but also the safety of ordinary guests." As he spoke, he glared at the manager and asked, "Just how do you train your employees?" Scratching her head, Carly said, All right. It's not as though he could have predicted something like this, could he?" The manager hurriedly tried to explain himself. Carly raised a hand and said, "You may leave now." Harper said, "My lady," she said, "that's enough, isn't it?" The manager then fled as though he had been pardoned. Harper sighed and said, "You are far too generous, my lady." Carly said, "It's enough that one of us is strict, and that's you, so it doesn't hurt if I'm a little more lenient." Harper said, "You are far too relaxed. You nearly met with disaster. Have you already forgotten?" Carly said, "How could I forget? I was startled too. You said the person who tried to attack me was a noble, right?" She added, "I heard he's the second son of some baron's family. I've already sent the guild's chief legal officer and chief financial officer over there. They should be negotiating compensation by now." Imagining the criminal's miserable fate, Harper said, "Negotiating? You mean taking everything they have?" Stretching, Carly said, "All right, let me know when they come back. I only wanted to spend one quiet day resting, but it seems I can't even have that much peace." She said, "No matter how badly they need money, I'm only the head of a merchant guild. I can't believe the son of a noble house would sneak into my room. It makes no sense at all." Harper said, "That's because we're far more than an ordinary merchant guild." Looking a little sullen, Carly said, "Are we?" Harper brought up the kingdom's #1 merchant guild, the Browning Merchant Guild, whose members are the most famous and wealthiest merchants in the kingdom, and whose crow emblem could be found all across the land. Some people might not even know the name of their own lord, but they would certainly know the president of the merchant guild marked by a crow. The story of a shopgirl becoming the richest woman in the country overnight had driven everyone into a frenzy. And this year, the famous woman of the Browning family had turned 21, which made her the ideal bride in the eyes of every man hoping to enter the gates of wealth through marriage. People said the Browning fortune could buy anything, yet there was one thing she couldn't buy, the most important thing of all, peace. They sent letters, gifts, and tried every trick imaginable. Now, they were even delivering themselves directly to her. Recalling those nobles, Carly said, "Why are there still such old-fashioned men around, clinging to a woman's chastity like that?" Harper said, "Still, my lady, it is a great relief that you remained unharmed even when facing an armed intruder alone. It just took some time before help arrived." Carly looked at Harper and said, "Oh, that." Blinking, she said, "I kicked the bastard right between the legs." Harper said, "Please speak with more ladylike refinement, my lady. Still, you handled it very well." The two of them gestured to each other in mutual agreement. Harper said, "The men who want to marry you have started using every means available." Carly said, "Yes. I was lucky this time, so they didn't succeed, but no one can guarantee they'll fail next time too." Tapping on the table, she said, "It's one thing if they come after me, but if this starts interfering with the guild's operations, that's a completely different matter." She said, "This wasn't the method I originally wanted to use, but," rising to her feet, she said, "I suppose I have no other choice, Harper." Standing there, she said, "It's time to buy myself a husband. After all, there is nothing in this world the Browning family cannot buy." 1 month later, back in the present, at Lord Arad's home, Carly said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Lord Arad. Although we've only just met, would you be willing to become my husband?" Ethelred said, "Pardon?" Looking utterly confused, he asked, "What did you just say?" Carly asked, "I'm asking whether you've given any thought to marrying me." Ethelred stood there, staring at her blankly. Carly asked him, "You did read the letter I sent, didn't you?" Ethelred asked, "What letter?" Looking flustered, Carly asked, "What?" Then she whispered to Harper, "Didn't you say the proposal letter and the draft contract had already been delivered?" Harper replied in a low voice, "I did send them. I'm certain they should have arrived by now." While they were speaking in hushed voices, someone came over holding a letter and said, "Hello, a letter has arrived for you." Carly took the letter and said, "This is," holding it in trembling hands. She thought, "My seal." She shouted at the messenger, "Why is it only arriving now?" The messenger chuckled and said, "Oh, my lady, you wouldn't believe it. We all went out to dinner together recently, and every single one of us got food poisoning. We spent days stuck in the privy. But the mail kept coming in, as usual, and now it's piled up like a mountain. Oh, and the toilet got clogged too. Every time we flushed it, it came right back up." Carly cut him off and shouted, "Enough, enough. Just go already." As he laughed, the messenger said, "Then I'll be off. I still have a whole heap of letters to deliver." Holding the letter, Carly glanced at Ethelred, and he was looking at her too. Carly said, well. Ethelred tried to shut the door, but Carly stopped him and said, "Wait just a moment. This is the letter I sent." Looking irritated, she showed him the letter. Inwardly, Carly fumed. Humph. What a terrible start. How did things turn out like this? Back at the guild, Carly had said, he has to be able to cut off those suitors at the source, which means his background must be good enough. Imagining the kind of noble she needed, she said, he must be well-born, but have no personal connections, no assets, and no ambitions for a career. Someone who has fallen out of favor in high society and would be willing to accept a proposal from a wealthy commoner. Surely there must be 1 or 2 men who fit those conditions. Carly said, "Did I really say that?" Harper replied, "You certainly did." Carly said, "That incident at the inn must have driven me into a corner. But even so, doesn't that sound exactly like something a villain would say? Like some wicked witch who thinks money can buy anything." After she said that, the room fell silent for a moment. In a gloomy tone, Carly said, "Hey, you people, when I say something like that, aren't you supposed to reply, 'No, and not a witch'?" Harper asked, "Do you truly intend to marry my lady?" Carly asked, "Why do you say that as if I'm joking?" The chief financial officer, Amy Ross, said, "But my lady, didn't you say you would absolutely never marry? You said so not long ago. You said you'd spend your whole life with your money, and before you died, divide the guild's shares equally among us. You also said the rest of your fortune would all be donated to an orphanage." With a delighted expression, Amy said, "So I was honestly hoping you'd die soon." The chief legal officer, Ernest, said, "How can you say something like that out loud?" He said, "If my lady were to die too early, the growth of her assets would stop, and the final amount left behind would be far from ideal." Amy was startled at once, but still kept her cheerful expression as she said, "Ah, that's true. As the one in charge of the money, how could I say such a thing? In that case, my lady, please make sure to live until our guild reaches the very height of its prosperity, and then die right on schedule. Ernest said, agreed. Both Ernest and Amy cheered, and Carly asked, haha, you do all realize I'm standing right here, don't you? She said, but in any case, I can't go on living like this. I know a woman in her early 20s, unmarried, and possessing enough wealth to let 3 generations live comfortably is rare, but those suitors are trying so desperately to curry favor with me that it's become a real nuisance. Amy said, you're probably the first person in history to have brought an entire merchant guild's paperwork to a halt because of too many marriage proposals. In a dejected tone, Carly said, yes, exactly that. She continued, after we returned all the letters unopened, they actually started delivering things directly into your hands. It seems these men who don't even know their own worth truly think they can move a woman's heart. Amy said, how ridiculous. Our president isn't without standards. It's always men like these who are absurdly full of confidence. Then Harper said, and now we have stalkers, attempted kidnappers, and even men breaking into your bedroom. Even so, I still must say that I do not approve of you sacrificing yourself in marriage for the sake of convenience. Carly said, you're making it sound far too dramatic. It's simple. If there's a good solution and I refuse to use it just because I don't feel like it, that would be foolish. And you've all been working so hard. I feel bad that I've become such a burden. Harper said, very well. We'll look for nobles from fallen houses or men without hereditary titles. After a while, Harper produced a list and said, here is the list of potential candidates. Looking at the list, Carly said, let me see. But the moment she clearly saw it, she was shocked, dropped it to the floor, and said, my dear friends, have you all gone collectively insane? Carly shouted, what exactly do you expect me to do with a 15-year-old child? He's a child. Pointing at the list for Harper to see, she yelled, he's only 15. Marriage? He's 6 years younger than I am. Harper said, that sort of age difference is not uncommon among nobles. Carly sighed and said, I oppose early marriage. Haven't you seen the newspaper the country published recently? Even His Highness the Prince said this trend of early marriage should end, didn't he? Without changing her expression, Amy said, but for a Marquis family, 15 isn't particularly young. Besides, you don't intend to consummate the marriage anyway. Carly clutched her head with both hands and said, consummate it? How can you say something so shameless? She shoved Amy away and said, I oppose this marriage. I can't do it. No, I won't do it. Stay away from me. Ernest said, my lady. He handed the list over and said, there are other candidates on the following pages. Please take a deep breath and look through everyone before you decide. With an exaggerated expression, Carly said, fine then, hand it over. She began looking through the other candidates on the list. She set the list down on the table and thought to herself, the rest of them are just as awful. Back at the Arad house, Ethelred said, please come in first. Walking through the door, Carly said, excuse me. Harper said to Harriet, you're late, Harriet. Harriet said, we had a patient on our side who suddenly needed urgent care. Ethelred said to them, please sit over there. Looking at Ethelred, Carly thought, up close, he doesn't look as young as I feared, and he's actually rather handsome. He'll surely be very popular in the future. Ethelred said, we weren't expecting visitors, so we haven't prepared anything. Shall I at least make some tea? Carly said, no, thank you. This is perfectly fine. Ethelred sat down as well and asked, then could you tell me why you've come? Carly then said, it is an honor to make your acquaintance, my lord. I am Carly Browning, president of the Browning Merchant Guild. Carly pointed to Harper, and he gave a slight bow. Carly said, this is my assistant, Harper Blythe. Then she pointed to Harriet and said, this lady is Harriet Arden, a physician. Ethelred introduced himself by saying, I am Ethelred. Carly thought to herself, he deliberately left out his family name and title. He's certainly very guarded. Carly said, this was not our intention, but gathering here like this without any prior notice was indeed rather abrupt. She said, and we even brought guards with us, so it is only natural that you would be wary of us. She handed him the letter and said, to return to the point, the reason I came today is written in this envelope. But before that, I'll give you a brief explanation. You may read it while you listen to me. Ethelred opened the envelope and read the contents, a look of confusion appearing on his face. Carly said, Inside are a marriage contract, a self-introduction, and a prenuptial agreement. Ethelred interrupted her and said, Wait. Carly asked, What is it? Looking uneasy, Ethelred asked, what is this sudden talk of marriage about? My family has absolutely no connection to the Brownings. So how could I possibly marry someone I've only just met? Carly said, Lord Ethelred, you are the only one I have chosen. That is how strongly I desire you. Ethelred looked at her, still utterly baffled, then turned his gaze away. Everyone else was also stunned by her words. Carly thought to herself, if I apply just a little more pressure, I might be able to close this deal. Carly said, The terms are extremely generous. You will lose nothing in this arrangement. Ethelred said, Even so, for a 15-year-old child to read a contract like this for the first time. Ethelred said, Wouldn't it be better to speak to the head of this household first? His position in this matter is also stated in the contract. Ethelred asked Carly, Do you know who I live with? Carly said, Of course I do. Your family. If I hadn't first looked into your household, why would I have rashly brought up marriage? Ethelred thought to himself, She must have investigated my background already, and yet she still said family. She should know I'm not related to them by blood at all. Clapping her hands, she said, Oh, and here he is. As they all sat there, someone walked in and said, Young master. An elderly man entered and said, I heard voices in here. Who are these people? Looking at him, Carly thought, that must be Albert, the Arad family's third-generation butler. After all the servants scattered and left, I heard he alone remained, continuing to care for this household. Carly said, Harper, the document. Harper replied, Yes. He handed the contract to Albert and said, This is the agreement we are proposing to Lord Arad. Looking at the contract, Albert asked, A marriage proposal? Looking over the contract, Albert suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck and said, Oh dear. Ethelred cried out, Albert. His face was full of concern. Carly thought, It seems he's not as sturdy as I imagined. We expected something like this might happen, which is why we brought Dr. Arden with us. As Harriet examined Albert, she said, I'm a doctor, sir. Please take a deep breath. Yes, just like that. You'd better go back and lie down to rest. Albert said, No, I'm fine. More importantly, he asked, What exactly is the meaning of this? Carly said, Oh, well, where should I begin? First of all, if you would look at the document we gave you, Albert said. This child is a noble, and yet you dare. Startled, Carly said, where did that high and mighty, noble pride suddenly come from? Albert glared at her and asked, What did you say? Scratching her head, Carly said, Yes, I certainly am outrageously bold. Inwardly, she thought, Lord Arad's family went bankrupt long ago. All they have left now is the family name. Their honor, wealth, and legacy have all vanished without a trace. And yet he still asks how I dare do this. Carly said, Perhaps in your eyes, I am merely a merchant and hardly worth mentioning, but I'm still a member of the Browning family. A young marquis of only 15 who moved to his current residence 8 years ago and has lived with an elderly butler ever since, with no close relatives. Ethelred flinched slightly. She said, I know everything about you, and I dare say I'm the most ideal partner you could possibly have. Take my hand, and I promise you will not lose out in this arrangement. Ethelred said, You're remarkably bold to state so plainly that you've investigated my background. How can you be so sure I would agree to such an absurd proposal? Carly said, My lord, merchants never speak lightly of certainty. All I can do is keep trying until you are willing to hire me. She said, I am the most eligible and wealthiest single woman in the kingdom, and I have personally come to your door. That is an extraordinary opportunity for you. Then she added, Besides, I am also a woman with a conscience. I do not ask that you truly live with me as my husband. All you need to do is sign the contract. Then Harper said, My lady has many suitors, and our guild is trying to remove them. Persuade them to withdraw. Therefore, we hope to establish a marriage-form partnership with a noble lord of House Arad. However, if you oppose this marriage on moral grounds, he said, pointing a finger at Ethelred, that is perfectly understandable. Using such a child for marriage really is barbaric and unreasonable. As he handed over the contract, he said, Please note that our proposal is formally classified as temporary employment and sponsorship. The contract reads as follows. Special short-term employment contract, husband of the guildmaster. First, this contract shall remain valid until the employee reaches adulthood, though it may be revised by mutual consent. Second, as an advance payment, Second, the employer shall transfer part of the land under her guild's name to the employee. Third, the employer shall bear all work-related expenses of the employee, except for the bare minimum necessary to maintain the appearance of the relationship. The employer may not force the employee to engage in any activities. Finally, Carly said, to be honest, involving a child in this is hardly honorable. However, all we require is written consent. As for everything else, I'm willing to agree to whatever terms you want. Ethelred asked, any terms I want? You always seem to say exactly what you think I want to hear. How can I trust you? Carly said, that is why we have a contract, is it not? Then she said, still, you are right. Whether you consider us worthy of trust is for you to decide. Whether I betray that trust is for me to decide. Ethelred thought to himself, she doesn't look like she's lying. But she was not forcing me to believe her either. There is no way I could know for certain whether she is trustworthy. He thought, one thing I'm sure of, this woman represents a major choice in my life and a challenge as well. Guild headquarters. Carly said, long story short, we were kicked out. Amy said, my lady, your negotiating skills are truly terrible. The guild's future looks grim. Carly sighed and said, if even my most capable finance officer says so, then it must be true. I am hopeless. I leave the future of the guild to all of you. Harper said, please don't joke like that. I might take it seriously. Also, Amy Ross, you're going too far by making fun of the guild master. She looked disapproving. Amy said, T-Seach, you're so strict. Ernest asked, by the way, where did you say they live? Linden Street. Carly said, no, Ernest asked, what? Elm Green Street. They actually live in a place like that. Carly said, right? And he's still Marquis Albert. Ernest said, Arad is the surname of their Marquis house, and also the name of the grain fields they own there. Once upon a time, the yield from that land was a major source of the Marquisate power. But now they have lost their land and castle, and even their townhouse in the capital has been taken away. According to our investigation, they now survive only on the meager stipend paid to nobles. Carly said, exactly. I think they are barely scraping by on that. And those two, recalling Ethelred and Albert in her mind, she said, that old man still worries me a little. He looked very unwell and kept coughing. Amy said, it's probably just a cold. The seasons are changing, after all. Carly said, you can't be sure of that. I left a few guards there just in case, so we can keep in touch as well. Besides, if word gets out that I went there, it could attract gangsters. Clapping her hands, Amy asked, does this mean you still haven't given up on that Marquis? Don't tell me it was love at first sight. Carly glared at her and said, do you have to make me sound so shameless? While they were talking, someone knocked at the door. Carly said, come in. She said, Mary, hello. What's dessert today? Pushing a serving cart, Mary said, good day. I brought strawberry cream cake and black tea today. Carly glanced at the cake and said, I'm a little curious. Did no one in the royal family or among the nobility ever try to help House Arad before they fell this far? As Mary served them cake and tea, Amy said, nobles have no interest in anyone else. They only care about filling their own stomachs. My lady, you really are naive, Ernest said. Even the crown prince is wary of the power in the hands of the great noble houses. It is even possible that they were the ones who caused House Arad's downfall. Carly said, what? That's terrifying. Mary asked, Miss Carly, is there anything else you need me to do? Carly said, no, thank you. Mary pushed the cart out. As Carly sipped her tea, she said, by the way, what happened to that lecher from the inn afterward? Amy said, the nerve of them. They actually thought that just because they were nobles, they could order us to keep the matter quiet when they were the ones who started the whole thing. With a sinister expression, she said, so we were planning to squeeze them hard for compensation. But Ernest said, their finances are already a complete disaster, and that is why they caused such trouble in the first place. It's a total mess. There's nothing to see but chaos. They have no money, only debt. Carly asked, but you still managed to get some assets, didn't you? Amy said, of course. We scraped away every last crumb they had. The only people who know we took all their money are us and them. Carly said, good. Now we can formally sue them and strip away what little useless pride and honor they have left as well. With a cold smile, she said, as soon as the compensation arrives, put the story in every newspaper. Make the headline as sensational as possible. Don't worry about the cost. Back at the Arad house, Ethelred was sleeping. In his dream, he slowly opened his eyes and said, so cold. He thought, it seems it rained last night. Is Albert all right? He looked terribly ill all day yesterday. He walked to Albert's door and knocked, and asked, Albert, are you there? Albert? Albert. Ethelred pushed the door open and said, "Did it rain very hard last night?" Then he shouted, "Albert! Albert!" Albert was lying in bed, his face twisted in pain. Ethelred looked at him, sat down beside him, and said, "How long have you been like this?" "All night." Ethelred thought, "First, I need to find a clinic. No, I can't leave him alone in this condition. It's too dangerous." Ethelred said, "I'm going to get help. Just hold on a little longer." Ethelred ran out of the room. He thought, who can I go to? What am I supposed to do? As soon as he ran outside, someone asked, "Has something happened? Is it an emergency?" The man said, "Excuse me." Then he barged into the Arad house. Ethelred said, "Wait, who are you? How can you just walk into someone else's home like that?" The man did not stop and kept going inside, heading upstairs. Ethelred said, "Wait, now isn't the time." The man picked Albert up and said, "Please stay calm. I will take this patient to the hospital. I'll call for a carriage and help you get out to the main road." Ethelred asked, "You are?" The man said, "Yes, I am from the Browning Guild." Then they took Albert to the hospital and admitted him. Carly, Harper, and Amy came to where Albert had been hospitalized. Carly asked, "Harriet, what happened? How is he?" Harriet said, "It's pneumonia." Fortunately, the guards handled things very well. He foolishly let his condition worsen. "I've given him medicine, so let him stay here and be observed for a few days." Sitting beside Albert, Ethelred asked, "Doctor, how much will the treatment and hospital fees be?" Harriet said, "Oh, don't worry about that. I'll be happy to charge only a tiny amount. Consider it the good fortune of having a doctor acquaintance." Carly said, "If she says it's fine, then it really is fine. Everyone in the hospital knows Dr. Arden, so if you need anything, you can ask the doctor or the staff." Ethelred said, "All right. Also, I want to thank you. Thanks to you, Albert was able to receive treatment so quickly. I just don't know how to repay you." He thought, "Ever since I was young, I was taught that any favor owed must be repaid. But this person is Carly Browning. What could I possibly give the richest merchant in the kingdom? Wait, there's one thing. The marriage contract." He thought, "No matter what I sacrifice, it would not be enough to repay her for saving my family member's life. But at the very least, with this," Ethelred said, "My lady, if the contract you proposed before, if it is still valid now, I am willing to agree." Ethelred stopped halfway when he saw Carly glaring at him. With anger in her voice, Carly said, "Hey, what kind of person do you take me for? Do you think I brought him to the hospital just to make you accept my proposal? Is that the sort of person I am in your eyes?" She said, "Of course I haven't given up on you yet, but these two things have nothing to do with each other. I simply did what anyone would do in this situation, so you had better not get strange ideas." Amy clapped a hand over Carly's mouth and shouted, "Good heavens, my lady, enough already, all right? Look, my lady, this child has been rejecting you all this time, and now he's finally agreed to marry you, hasn't he? You should be secretly delighted and accept it, so why are you the one rejecting it now?" Harper said, "Miss Rose, you are making the conversation even more complicated. Please step back a little." Carly shouted at Amy, "Harper's right. I'm begging you. Don't move." Amy shouted back, "I wasn't moving in the first place." Carly said, "Not your mouth either. Keep your mouth shut too." Ethelred thought, "She seems to be a principled person. I don't think she's a bad person. She even saved Albert." Ethelred said, I will accept it sincerely, this marriage." Amy said, "See, if you just hurry up and do it, who cares what's right or wrong?" Carly pressed a hand to Amy's face and said, "I'm serious. You do not have to do this because of him. I have no interest in using someone else's life to make them owe me a debt." Ethelred said, "This is not compensation. I will try to trust you. That should be enough, shouldn't it?" Carly said, "Doubly." She let out a sigh and said, "All right, then. You will not regret this decision, my lord." Ethelred and Carly shook hands. Ethelred said, "You don't have to address me so formally. I'll do my best." Carly smiled and said, "So will I." A few days later, Mrs. Holt said, "You can't just suddenly come and tell me you're moving out. What am I supposed to do now? Where am I supposed to find a new tenant?" "The landlady, Mrs. Holt." The girls said, "Ethel, you're moving away? Why? Where are you going? Is it far away? Can't you stay?" Ethelred said, Actually, this was rather sudden for us too." Mrs. Holt scolded Ethelred as she said, "That's what tenants always say. It's still too sudden. You're putting me in a difficult position." The girls said, "Ethel, don't go." Mrs. Holt said, How am I supposed to return the deposit with no warning at all? Do you think money grows on trees?" At that moment, Carly arrived and overheard their conversation. She asked, "How much is the rent?" Introducing herself, she said, "I am Ethelred's guardian. I heard that this month's rent has already been paid. Where are the monthly rent and the deposit? I will pay all of it." Mrs. Holt said, well, Carly said, you're not sure? Very well, I'll pay double, and then double that again. Carly stuffed a large number of gold coins into the bewildered landlady's hands. Carly said, I added a little extra and rounded it off while I was at it. That should be enough. Consider the excess a gift. Looking at the gold coins, Mrs. Holt thought, this is enough money to buy a house. Carly said, oh, as for the deposit, she plucked a single coin from Mrs. Holt's hand and said, I'll just take this. After that, Mrs. Holt and the girl left. Carly and Ethelred went to where Albert was hospitalized. Stretching, Carly said, all right, the rent issue should be settled. What's left? Ethelred said, aren't you moving a little too fast? Carly said, it's best to deal with this sort of thing quickly, before anyone can interfere. Albert glared at Carly furiously. Carly said, sir, you'll have to keep seeing me from now on, so I do hope you won't keep glaring at me like that. To Ethelred, it looked like a fierce tiger and a crow were locked in battle. Our precious young master, he is my husband. Ethelred said, Albert, after calming himself, Albert said, I will respect your decision, my young master. Smiling, Carly said, in that case, she handed the contract to Albert and said, please read the contract carefully, and if there is anything you wish to revise, let me know. While Albert was reading it, Carly said, I will send a legal representative soon, and you may speak with him before making your decision. He looks like he would not even swat a fly, but he is actually very capable. Then she said to Ethelred, since Mr. Albert is hospitalized, the packing will be up to you. Ethelred nodded. Carly said, you only need to pack the essentials. Don't bring clothes or household goods. We'll have to buy everything new anyway. Ethelred lowered his head and looked at himself and his clothes, thinking, it seems these clothes probably do not meet their standards. Thinking aloud, Carly said, what else was there? We need to leave quickly. Suddenly remembering something, she said, right. The guard you met last time is named Vika. From now on, I'll have Vika and a few others protect you. She said, now that both of you are legally connected to me, you need that kind of protection. With that, she left. She said, that's all for now. See you later. Ethelred said, hey, all right. Carly slammed the door shut. Ethelred thought, she's like a natural disaster, like a storm sweeping through in an instant and then simply leaving. A few days later, Ernest came before Ethelred and said, it is a pleasure to see you, Lord Arad. My name is Ernest, and I am the legal officer of the Browning Guild. Ethelred asked, are you all right? Ernest looked exhausted and said, I've been a bit busy lately, but I'm fine. The holidays are coming soon, and I'll rest then. Looking at Ernest, Ethelred thought, he looks like a refugee who has just escaped a natural disaster. Ernest's hands trembled slightly as he handed the contract to Ethelred and said, let us begin revising the contract. After a while, Ernest said with a serious expression, very well. I will take it that you confirm this is sufficient. If you have no further objections, we shall proceed with this version. Ethelred thought, he is like a different person now. Then he said, all right. She was right. He really did look like someone who would not even dare swat a fly, but he was indeed very capable. Ernest said, all right, then my work here is officially finished. Albert cleared his throat. Cough, cough. Albert said, there is still one thing you left out. Ernest asked, what is it? Albert said, actually, it is. He hesitated halfway through. Ethelred asked, what is it? Is it serious? Tell me. Albert said, it is the matter of inheritance. If, of course, this is purely hypothetical, highly unlikely, extremely rare, but if they were to have children, how the inheritance would be divided among the children, and how much they would receive. Ernest's eyes widened. Ethelred asked, Albert, what are you talking about? He thought, have children? Have a child. With a child? Ethelred said, Albert, what exactly did you just say? Children. Flustered, Albert said, my young master, I meant no harm. It is simply that this is a marriage contract with a distinguished family. So, Ernest said, though it does sound somewhat absurd, proper procedure is important. It is best to make such matters clear. Albert said, my young master, I am not just some old man who nags for no reason. And you listen as well, lawyer. Ernest pushed up his glasses and said, I understand the intent behind your question, but the guildmaster's heir has already been decided, so there is no need to add any related clause. As for that, he asked, then do you have any other questions? Albert said, no. Your explanation was sufficiently clear. Ernest said, good, then we shall stop here for today. Until next time, Ernest thought, we already agreed that my lady's property will be divided among the rest of us. Don't think you'll get even a scrap of it. Back at headquarters, Amy said, how can there be a marquis who doesn't even own a house? Business really is terrifying. Just how recklessly do you have to squander money to lose that much wealth? She said, I'd rather die than do business. I'll just live on my monthly salary for the rest of my life. Carly said, I guarantee you make more in a year than an ordinary merchant does in an entire year. And did you investigate the Albert estate? Amy said, everyone came running to get a share. I've never seen anything like it. While Carly flipped through the documents, Amy said, the entanglements are so deep that it'll take quite a while to sort everything out. Carly threw the papers onto the table and said, if the situation is this bad, then abandon that case for now. Don't keep digging into it. Carly asked, Mason has come back, right? I wonder whether he's had enough rest. Harper said, definitely enough. He's already used up all the remaining leave he had for this year. Shall I call him in? Carly said, please do. She said, this marriage may be hasty, but I should still prepare a wedding gift. Meanwhile, Ethelred asked Albert, are you really all right being discharged so soon? Albert rose from the bed and said, I'm much better now, and the doctor agreed. Ethelred said, but at that moment, he heard the clatter of hooves outside. He looked out the window and thought, why is it so noisy outside? A carriage had arrived at the hospital, and people were talking about it. What an astonishing carriage. Isn't that the Browning family's carriage? The Browning family? What would someone so wealthy like that be doing at a hospital? Carly opened the carriage door and stepped out. She looked in Ethelred's direction and even waved at him. Ethelred thought, is she waving at me? Carly came to Albert's room and said, good morning. I came early because I heard you'd be discharged today, sir. Are you feeling better? Ethelred said, he is feeling much better, but we could go home on our own. You didn't have to come all this way. Scratching her head, Carly said, actually, since today's our wedding day, I figured I might as well help you with your luggage too. Ethelred said, all right, the wedding. Then he cried out in shock, huh? The wedding? Carly blinked and said, Lord Arad, let us become one today. Ethelred said, I'm sorry, but this is all so sudden. Carly asked, though, is there any reason today won't work? No. But Albert shouted angrily, how can anyone be so rude? Carly cut him off and said, oh, I see. It looks like you're well enough to get angry. Ethelred held Albert to calm him down and said, hey, Albert, don't get upset. You're going to faint again. Let's just go first. Carly pointed ahead with one finger and said, then let us set off on our journey of love. Ethelred thought, love? I suppose love is a feeling that will never exist between that woman and me. Then they got into the carriage together. Carly said, actually, before we go to the government office, we need to stop somewhere first. Looking out of the carriage, Ethelred asked where? Carly said, consider it a wedding gift. They stopped somewhere. Looking out the window, Albert said, this is the Arad family's townhouse. Standing inside the house, Albert said in shock, how is this possible? Carly said, after the former Marquis's mother died, he was forced to sell this townhouse at an absurdly low price. I thought all of your family's property had already been auctioned off to cover business losses and gambling debts. She continued, but while I was tracing the whereabouts of the Arad family's old assets, I found that this townhouse had been preserved almost completely intact, nearly the same as it used to be. Ethelred asked, how did you get back? Carly said, our chief guard, Mason, worked very hard on that. Showing him some papers, she said, here, this is the deed registering the townhouse in your name. We only finished it late last night. Ethelred said, I can't accept this. Carly asked, why not? Ethelred said, I haven't had the chance to prepare anything for you. Carly said, look at you, worrying about something like that. She grabbed Ethelred's hand and started walking forward. She said, from now on, I'll be getting plenty in return. As she walked, she said, now then, where's the back door again? It should be about time. I wonder if they've all arrived. Following behind her, Ethelred asked, huh? What exactly are you talking about? Carly opened the door and said, right here. A crowd had gathered outside the door, firing off questions. One of them said, President of the Browning Guild, are you really going to marry a noble heir? Another said, after rejecting marriage proposals again and again, you finally decided to marry? Have you changed your mind? Or did the incident change it for you? Carly placed a hand on Ethelred's shoulder and said, come on, don't be so stiff. Give them a big smile. He only realized later that although what Carly said sounded perfectly nice, it was basically no different from what street thugs say in an alley. Come on, show them your teeth. Carly asked, what should we do now, Ethelred? Lord Ethelred? Then she said, first, act like you're very close to me. A reporter asked, how was the matter with the Baron who caused the disturbance at the end finally resolved? Another asked, we heard your husband is 16 years younger than you. Will your future child become a member of the guild? Carly said, wow, some people really are asking about heirs. How disgusting. With her mouth closed, she said, someone 16 years younger than me is basically still a child nursing in his mother's arms. Looks like reporters don't even bother using their brains anymore. Ethelred thought, she can talk without opening her mouth? Carly said, that's why I hate press conferences. They turn even the tiniest thing into. She stopped mid-sentence and looked at the terribly nervous Ethelred. She leaned closer to Ethelred and said, humans really are interesting, aren't they? Don't be so nervous. No matter what happens, I'll stay by your side. Ethelred thought, she's way too close. Carly said, welcome to this side of the world, young prince. Though people talked endlessly about the Browning Guild president's marriage, the wedding itself was quiet and simple. There was no ceremony of any kind. They simply signed a marriage registration at the government office. The official said, so the two of you are here to register your marriage? Handing them the document, she said, you'll need to sign this. Ethelred looked nervously at the contract. The marriage document read as follows. In accordance with the laws of the kingdom, I will follow the marriage registration procedure and agree to enter into marriage truthfully and lawfully. Signed, Ethelred Alares Arlisbel. The government official said, it's done. The two of you are now legally married. After that, Carly said to Ethelred, good, let's go. She held out her hand to him and said, come on, let's go home to our home. Looking at her, Ethelred thought, no one has used my full name in years. This wasn't just a signature. It was the fulfillment of a promise he made to her, even if it was fake. The next day, as he lay in bed, Ethelred stared at the ceiling and thought, this ceiling feels so unfamiliar. The ceiling in our house showed exposed wood and brick, so why am I seeing bed curtains and a bed frame now? Am I dreaming? He remembered Carly saying our home, then immediately sat up in bed and looked around. Oh, right, I moved. Albert came over and asked, did you cough, young master? Ethelred asked, hey, Albert, what are you wearing? Albert said, I've decided to do my utmost to fulfill my duties as a butler. Ethelred said, oh, Albert, the way you're calling me young master. Albert said, please forgive my discourtesy all these years. Ever since the former Marquis passed away and you inherited the title, I should have addressed you properly as young master. Even so, I kept using the old way of addressing you. Ethelred clenched his hands and thought, well, that's true. I can't keep being called little young master forever like a child. After all, I'm already a married man now. Now, he felt he ought to act like an adult. Carly was sitting there reading the newspaper. She heard a knock-knock, and then the door opened. Looking at Ethelred, she said, good morning, my lord. Did you sleep well last night? Ethelred said, good morning. Carly said, you're here early. Could you sit there and wait a moment first? Ethelred sat down and said, all right, take your time. Then Carly went back to reading the newspaper, and Ethelred thought the only sound is her turning the pages. This silence is so awkward and uncomfortable. Should I try making some small talk? He remembered Carly once saying, don't be so nervous. No matter what happens, I'll stay by your side. The moment he thought of it, he blushed. Looking at him, Carly said, oh, right about the other townhouse. She said, if the owner agrees, we'd like to renovate it. What do you think? We'll do our very best to restore it to how it used to be, so we'd be most grateful for your guidance, sir. Smiling, Albert said, of course. I'll help however I can. Looking at Albert, Ethelred thought, Albert looks happy, even happier than I am. I didn't live there very long, but I still made many wonderful memories there. He thought, don't show it. I need to act like an adult. Ethelred cleared his throat. Ahem. Well, do whatever you like, dear. Carly and Albert were both stunned to hear that. Ethelred himself blushed the moment the words left his mouth. Carly asked, dear? What dear? Dear? Did you just call me dear? Carly burst out laughing. Ethelred said, dear? Then what else am I supposed to call you? My beloved? Sweetheart? Carly kept laughing. Still laughing, she said, cough, wait, I think something stuck in my throat. I need a cough. Even though the groom, Ethelred, had tried his very best to play his role, everything fell apart completely on the very first day. Carly laughed and said, you're right. We're married now, so I really am your dear. She said, now I finally understand how people can laugh themselves to death. Sorry for suddenly laughing like this. If it was rude, I apologize. She said, I didn't mean anything by it. I just didn't expect to be called dear all of a sudden. Don't get hurt. You're not angry, are you, my dear? Albert glared at her, and Carly thought, Albert looks really angry. That just makes me want to tease him more, but I suppose I should stop while I'm ahead. Carly said, just call me Carly. I feel more comfortable that way, Lord Ethelred. Ethelred said, then please just call me Ethelred too. Carly said, oh, please don't say that. How could I casually call your lordship by name? Ethelred said, could you stop calling me that? Carly said, we'll see. Then she added, anyway, let me go over today's schedule with you first. First, I'd like you to help with the townhouse renovation, sir. As for my dear husband, he needs someone to show him around this house. Just then, someone suddenly shoved the door open. Amy came in and said, "Hello." Amy Ross, who has absolutely nothing to do, reporting for duty. Slightly annoyed, Carly said, "I'm pretty sure I told the butler to show him around the guild." Amy said, "Yes, but I volunteered." Carly thought, "So you just came on your own?" Amy hooked herself on Ethelred's arm and said, "Come on, let's go." Ethelred said, "Wait." Amy said, "If we want to see this whole place, we have to make use of every minute." Carly waved her hand and said, "Have fun." Ethelred thought, "In the end, Carly still never told me what she plans to call me." Following behind Amy, Ethelred walked on, thinking, "I have a few questions. First, is she some kind of professional actress?" Amy turned back to look at him and said, "We met briefly at the hospital before, right? But I don't think we've properly introduced ourselves yet." Showing off her outfit, she said, "I put special effort into my appearance today to make a good impression on the guild president's husband." Ethelred thought, if she's not an actress, then what on earth is with that outfit? His second question was, how does she have this much energy in the morning? Ethelred asked, "You said your name is Amy?" Amy launched into a torrent of words. "Please call me Amy Ross. Actually, there's something I've always wanted to ask you. As the guild president's husband, Mr. Guild President's husband, what exactly was it about our president that made you decide to marry her?" She went on, and Ethelred was already getting irritated. She said, "And another question, Mr. Guild President's husband, you and our president." Ethelred thought, "Someone save me." Amy said, "Oh, and one more." She suddenly stopped talking and looked at someone collapsed on the floor in agony. Ethelred thought, "Is he dead?" Amy checked on Ernest and said, "Hey, Ernest, don't you usually sleep in late? Why are you out so early today?" Ernest said, "It's not that I came out, it's that I haven't made it back in yet." "Got it." As Amy smacked him, Ernest shouted, "Ow, stop hitting me." Amy said, "You're proud of yourself for ignoring orders? Didn't Madam tell you to go back to your room, old man? Get up. The guild president's husband is here." Ernest immediately scrambled to his feet, wiped the drool from his mouth, and said, My, it's been quite a while since I've seen the guild president's husband." Smiling, Ethelred said, "Yes, it has been a while, Ernest." His third question was, 3. How long are they going to keep calling me the guild president's husband? Amy said, "Well, I think I've shown you most of the important facilities already." Turning to Ethelred, she asked, "Do you have any questions?" Ethelred said, "I heard this house is for the guild president to live in. Do guild members live here too?" Ernest said, "Not all the time, no, but we often come here for work. When Miss Harper gets busy, she basically lives here, so she even has her own room." Amy said, "That's right. Don't let Ernest's appearance fool you. He's still the head of the legal department. And I, Amy Ross, am the accounting genius of the finance department. So Madam relies on me quite heavily." Looking at her, Ethelred thought, does an accounting genius really need to dress like that? It's painful to look at. It's almost like she's trying to intimidate the enemy on purpose. Amy blinked and said, "But don't worry. The staff probably won't come all the way into the residence. No one will disturb your love nest." Pointing ahead, she said, "So, we'll end our mansion adventure here for now. Shall we go to the guild headquarters next?" Ernest said, "This is the entrance from the first floor hall to the guild. You can go to the guild through here." As he opened the door, he said, "You may be a little surprised when you go in. You'll understand what I mean once you step inside. There are many people of different races, genders, and ages gathered here." Looking at the people there, Ethelred thought, "I can't believe so many different kinds of people are gathered in one place." He said to Ernest, "There's so many people." Ernest said, "That's because the workday has just begun." One of them greeted them, "Good morning, Miss Amy, Mr. Ernest, ah?" Ernest said, "Ah, I knew this would happen." Another person said, "Good morning, Eep." "Hello, whoa, wow, what, huh?" Ethelred said, "Is there something on my face? Why is everyone so shocked to see me?" Ernest said, "It's not you." News of your marriage was already in both the morning and evening papers yesterday. Amy said, and they went into a lot of detail. She said, "They're probably just shocked because they recognized you as the guild president's husband." Ethelred thought, "They don't just look shocked. They look extremely wary of me. Maybe I should just go back to my room." Harriet came over too and said, "I was wondering why it was so noisy here." "So the young master is here." "Dr. Arden," Harriet asked, "has the food been to your taste? I asked the kitchen to make easily digestible meals for the time being. Have you been sleeping well in your new bedroom? While adjusting to the new environment, have you felt unwell anywhere?" Ethelred said, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Harriet said, don't thank me. You should thank Madam. She was worried about your health and about you adapting to the new environment. So she specifically instructed us to take extra care of you. Ethelred said, what do you mean? Who? Harriet said, I'm usually in the infirmary over in that corner. So come find me anytime if you feel unwell. Ethelred said, what I was trying to ask just now was the one who ordered you to do all this was. While they were talking, Carly came over as well. She waved and said, so this is where you are, dear. You've already wandered all the way over here. Looking at Carly, Ethelred thought, seeing her walking this way with a smile on her face gives me a feeling somehow. She's definitely about to make some joke that'll embarrass me again. Carly suddenly hugged Ethelred and said, excuse us for a moment. Holding him in her arms, Carly said, this is harder than I thought. Ethelred asked Carly, what are you? As he spoke, Carly said, there. After stepping back, she said, it suits you. Looking at the chain with the ring hanging from it, Ethelred said, this is... Carly said, yes, this is our engagement ring. Since you're still going to grow more, I had it made in the size of an average adult man. So for now, just wear it as a necklace. She then showed another ring and said, I have one too. Ethelred thought, does she want me to put it on her finger? Right. I should take responsibility for playing the role of husband. Ethelred reached out to take the ring, but Carly quickly turned her head and said, Ernie, are you free right now? Carly put the ring on her own finger. The people around them immediately began whispering, oh, she put it on herself. I thought we were going to see something interesting. TCH. Her husband had even reached his hand out. Harper walked over and said, is no one planning to work? Everyone returned to their work. Amy asked, so, are you heading out, madam? Carly replied, yes, and actually this works out well. Amy, come with us. She said, me? Are we going to seize assets somewhere? As Amy listened, Carly said, I was only planning to bring just anyone along, but I quite like your outfit today. It looks strong. Were you trying to dress like some kind of powerful warrior? Offended, Amy said, what is that supposed to mean? You have absolutely no sense of style, madam. Am I supposed to stand there looking like some brown statue? Smiling, Carly said, yes, that would be perfect. I'd bet 3 gold coins everyone would be frightened out of their wits. Carly looked at Ethelred and said, but if I take Amy away, who's going to show the young master around today? Ethelred said, I can go back to my room now. He thought to himself, actually, I just want to rest for a bit. Just as he was thinking that, Harper said, I'll do it. Ethelred looked at Harper in confusion, and Carly asked, you will? As Carly dragged Amy and Ernest away, Ernest said to Amy, honestly, that outfit makes you look like a butterfly. Amy said to Ernest, what are you talking about, you old man? Carly said to Harper, then I'll leave him to you. Hurry up, everyone. As she left, Carly said, have a good look around. After they left, only the 2 of them remained. Harper asked Ethelred, shall we go? Ethelred said, okay. Ethelred thought, I still can't quite feel at ease around Miss Harper. She always looks angry, and her attitude is unfriendly, which makes her hard to approach. Harper said, you may tour up to the 3rd floor at most, young master. The 4th floor is open only to a select few members. Today I'll show you the offices and the military aid and civil affairs office. Harper showed Ethelred around the guild. Harper said, there's a restaurant on the 1st floor. After the tour, would you like some milk tea or ice cream? Of course, we also have coffee and cookies. Ethelred looked at Harper and thought, maybe she's not as scary as I thought. A few days later, as Ethelred tidied himself up, he thought, it's already been a few days since I came here, and I've more or less gotten used to life with the Browning family. And now I'm familiar with the inside of this mansion, too. He thought, people around Carly sometimes come take me on tours of headquarters, and most of the time, it's Miss Harper. The guild members are all basically kind to me, too. He recalled what people said to him. Good morning, the president's husband. Good morning, the president's husband. The president's husband. Are you here to have some fun again today? Want some candy? He thought, before I knew it, that absurd title, the president's husband, had actually spread. Even though I see Carly every day, we hardly ever get any time alone together. Holding a book, Ethelred thought, I'll go read in the garden today. He thought, well, I suppose marriages in name only are mostly like this. There probably won't be anyone in the garden either. So Ethelred went to the garden, where he saw Carly lying down. He thought, I see my wife lying on the grass in the garden, and I'm not sure whether I should go over and speak to her. Carly lay there with one arm over her face, thinking, it's too bright. I should have brought my hat. Should I go get it now? Ugh, forget it. It's too far. I'll just stay here. As Ethelred approached her, Carly, still lying there, smiled and thought, perfect timing. Carly said, Since you're here, could you stand over there for a moment? Ethelred was startled. Huh? He tried standing where Carly indicated, and she said, not there, a little to the left. Ethelred said, here. Carly sat up and said, perfect. My portable parasol is complete. She smoothed her hair with her hand and asked, how did you know I was here? It shouldn't be easy to see this place from outside. Ethelred said, I can see it from my room. Carly looked in the direction of Ethelred's room and said, that explains it. No one ever found me before, because that room had always been empty. Ethelred said, I thought it was someone else, so I hesitated for a long time. Carly smiled and said, oh, it's my day off today, so I'm dressed very casually. Carly said, sit down. You got up very late today. Ethelred said, I went to sleep late last night. So Ethelred sat down beside Carly. Carly said, I see. After a moment of silence, she said, this used to be a really good place for naps. Looks like I'll have to find a new spot. Ethelred asked why. Carly said, because you found this place. Ethelred thought, so she likes hiding in places where no one can find her, like a child with a secret base. Ethelred said, if you want to keep this place secret, I won't tell anyone. Carly smiled at Ethelred and said, all right then. Keep this secret for me. As Carly looked at him, Ethelred's heart began to race, and he said, I promise. Carly and Ethelred began chatting about all sorts of things. Ethelred said, so I never imagined that he would turn out to be Lady Magenta's murderer. Carly said, you've never seen a twist like that before, right? Ethelred said, no. During the first half, I was convinced Colonel Mossgreen was the culprit. Carly thought, he likes books even more than I imagined. Good thing I brought those books into the library. Carly said with a smile, I know. No one would ever guess that the Peacock Blue Teaspoon incident was laying the groundwork for a twist like that. Carly added, but come to think of it, I still can't believe you managed to find that book in the library. I deliberately hid it between two other books. Ethelred said, I remember every book I brought in. He said, so I spotted it right away because the cover was different. Carly said, so that's why you slept in so late? You got so absorbed in reading that you lost track of time. Ethelred said, yes. Carly said, you know, the second book in this series is even better. He asked, there's another one? She said, goodness, you really don't know anything, do you? Carly held out her hand to him and said, there are 7 more books after this one. She said, want to come with me? I'll lend them to you. Carly showed Ethelred the remaining 6 books. She said, there are so many books, it amazes me every time. It must have been hard to bring all of these from home. The books covered all kinds of subjects: government, land management, strategy, command, geography, and languages. Carly asked, you really read all of these and remembered them too? Ethelred replied, yes, but this is my first time reading popular fiction. Carly asked in surprise, Albert wouldn't let you read it? Ethelred said, that's right. He said it wasn't good writing and that I should be careful in choosing what I read. Carly asked, how can you not know the joy of a great novel? Adventure stories are completely irresistible. Next, do you want to read Platinum Gold, Phantom Thief Ghost? Ethelred asked, what is that one about? Carly gave a light laugh and said, I can't tell you. It's more fun if you read it yourself. Want me to lend it to you? Ethelred said, yes, I want to read it. As the two were talking, Mary knocked and pushed in a tea cart. Mary said, I've brought some refreshments. Carly said, oh, Mary, perfect timing. Let's pause the book talk and have something to eat first. As Mary poured the tea, she said, careful, it's hot. Ethelred said, all right. Thank you. As Mary left, Carly asked Ethelred, how does it feel living here? He said, it's nice. Everyone treats me very well. As she drank her tea, Carly said, then I'm relieved. Ethelred said, Carly said, Ethelred said, I want to thank you. I think Dr. Arden comes to examine me, he said, and takes care of me, and the guild members come to check on me often, all because of you. And now you're lending me books too. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. Carly thought, when he puts it that way, it makes me feel like the bad one here. As she recalled the contract, she thought, strictly speaking, young Master Arad fulfilled his part of the contract the moment he signed the marriage certificate. The reason I made this decision was to guarantee him the greatest possible freedom and rights once he grew a little older. My original plan was to leave him alone for the time being and let him spread his wings a bit. Of course, that doesn't mean I intended to set him completely free. She took a sip of tea and thought, that's why I ordered Dr. Arden and Harper to keep an eye on him. Though look after him would be more accurate as watch him, she thought. But in the end, my orders didn't really matter because this child just happened to stay indoors and quietly live his life. Carly recalled her conversation with Harper. Carly asked. He just reads all day? How is that possible? Harper replied. If I or the other members don't go see him, he just reads in a library or the garden the whole time. Carly thought, what on earth is he reading so intently? She looked toward the bookshelf and thought, that was just a little thing I did on impulse. There wasn't a single fairy tale or novel on that dreary bookshelf, so I put in a mystery novel I loved when I was little. Carly set down her teacup and asked, what other books do you like? Ethelred said, I like Abbott's Encyclopedia of Numbers. Carly cut him off and said, what on earth is that supposed to be? Ugh, I don't even want to hear what it's about. Ethelred said, no, that book is really interesting. When I was little, I always begged Al to read it to me before bed. Carly said, but you're still little now. When you say, when I was little, just how little do you mean? Mary poked her head in through the doorway and said, Carly, I'm here to collect the dishes. Seeing that Ethelred and Carly were busy laughing and talking, she quietly closed the door and left. Ethelred said, then later today, can we have dinner together? He said, we can talk about books and things. Carly said, sure, let's do that. Ethelred thought from that day on, I often borrowed books from Carly, and because of that, we started talking more and eating together more often as well. Carly pushed open the door and said, I'm here. Have you had lunch yet? Ethelred asked, you came early today. You're not done with work yet, are you? Stretching her arms, Carly said, of course not. I just stopped by on the way. Ethelred said, then let's have lunch together. Carly sat down and said, okay. She looked at Ethelred and thought, what is he reading today? Then, sounding a little irritated, she said, modern capital and law? What does that even mean? You can understand this. Ethelred said, what? Picking up the book, Carly said, oh, I read this when I used to take classes at the guild. She said, this really brings back memories. Looking at the book, she thought it's been preserved fairly well, but because it's old, it's still somewhat worn. Staring at Ethelred, she thought, could it be that he keeps rereading the same books because he doesn't have the money to buy more? Ethelred asked, Carly, is there something on my face? She stood up and said, no, I was just thinking about something. Let's go. Have lunch. As they walked, Ethelred said, may I ask what you were thinking about just now? Carly answered, it's a secret. Ethelred said, all right. Carly thought, maybe I should buy him some books. No, I should buy him an entire bookstore. The next day, Carly sent for Ethelred. When he arrived, Carly invited him in and apologized for calling him over. She said, come in. Sorry for calling you here when you were busy. I just had something I wanted to give you. Ethelred replied, it's all right. I wasn't busy anyway. I was in the library just now. She asked, really? That's good then. Anyway, sit down first. I'll get it now. Have you been a little bored lately, young master? Don't you ever go out? He said, I go out sometimes. She said, you mean when Amy Ross drags you out by force? She said to him, if you want to go out, you can do so anytime. If you tell the butler or the headmaid, they'll call for guards and prepare a carriage for you. Also take this too. Then she handed him an envelope and a pouch. She said, this is a checkbook and some cash. Use them whenever you need to. If you want to buy new books or anything else, you can. Really? Wait, do you know how to write a check? It might be a little confusing at first, so I can teach you. So Ethelred interrupted her and said, forgive me, Carly. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say this. But Carly looked momentarily puzzled and said, go ahead, I'm listening. She thought, this child, who's always so polite, actually interrupted me. Just how important is this? He said, perhaps money should still be spent more carefully. I know you're very wealthy, but to just give me a blank checkbook like this. Carly froze for a moment. She had never expected him to say that. Then she said, all right, fine. It seems I explained things in the wrong order just now. Then she wrote something on a sheet of paper, handed it to Ethelred, and said, here, this is the guild's official net profit for the last quarter, totaling 546,812,351 gold coins. She continued, of course, that's only the guild's funds. My personal assets are separate. One thing I learned for doing business is to always be wary of so-called certainty. But there is one thing I can say for sure. As long as I'm alive, no one can bankrupt the Browning family. So, let's practice writing checks, shall we? The next day, Harper came to report that one of their warehouses had caught fire. Carly asked, what about casualties? Harper replied, they're still investigating at the moment. Carly asked, what did the security department say? She said, the last message we received was that they had already begun putting out the fire. It will take some time before we know whether it was arson or an accident. Carly ordered, we can worry about that later. Right now, the most important thing is getting the employees out first. At the meeting, Carly, Amy, and several staff members sat together discussing the matter. One of them reported, the fire broke out at night, so it was discovered late. On top of that, the weather was dry and windy, which made it even harder to put out. The goods were most likely completely destroyed. We all need to prepare for the worst. Carly bit her lip in anger and regret. During the night, a warehouse on the outskirts of the capital caught fire. And of all the warehouses, this one happened to be storing all the luxury goods that were to be displayed in the department store during the king's birthday celebration. The king's birthday is the time of year when people spend the most money, so sales during this period are crucial. Now, all the goods prepared for that period have burned up, and the guild will suffer enormous losses. The timing couldn't be worse. We first need to confirm what goods remain on the market. Even so, there's no way to get handmade items from the craftsman that quickly. Fortunately, the goods shipped from the south. At that moment, Carly ordered, once the messenger arrives, confirm first whether there were any casualties. Amy, if anyone has died, begin drafting a compensation plan for the bereaved families. Continue the meeting. After the meeting ended, she returned to the mansion, and Mary came forward to greet her. "Welcome back, my lady. You worked so late. How tiring. Would you like something to eat?" Carly replied, "No, please prepare bathwater first. I'm sorry you can't sleep because of me too. Go get some rest." Mary replied, "It's my duty. Please get some proper rest, my lady." As Carly walked up the stairs, she was already calculating her next steps. "My head hurts. Tomorrow I still have to review the sales restructuring plan. I suppose we'll have to focus on imported goods, but that means we'll have to rebuild our target agencies." She pushed open the door and saw Ethelred, asleep on the sofa. She called out, "Young master." He woke up and said, "Ah, Carly, welcome back." She asked, "Young master, why aren't you in bed?" He walked over to her and said, "I heard something happened." She asked, "So you were waiting for me because of that?" "It's all right. The fire has been put out, and fortunately no one died." He said, "You handled it well." Carly looked at him and thought, to be honest, before I walked into this room, I had completely forgotten this child existed. After all, until not long ago, I was alone here, in a place where I had always been by myself. Someone is comforting me, and it feels a little. No, it's just because it's late. I'm tired and sleepy. Then she said, "You should go back now. It's very late. I'm going to sleep too." Then she noticed a vase of flowers by the window. She thought, I don't keep flowers in this house. I don't want to give the servants extra work over something like caring for plants. She asked, "Did you arrange these flowers, young master?" Blushing, he said, "Ah, yes." She asked, "Really? Was it to cheer me up?" "Thank you." Then he said, "Good night," and hurried away. Afterward, Carly looked at the flowers and said, "They're beautiful." From then on, over the next few days, Carly and the guild's special task force were so busy they could hardly keep up. When she returned home, a maid came to greet her and said, "Welcome back, my lady. Have you eaten?" Exhausted from lack of sleep, she said, "No, I need to change first, then I'm going right back." As she opened the door, she thought, maybe next time I should tell her to just send my clothes straight to the office. She found even more flowers on the table. She touched the flowers and thought, these look like they were bought from a flower shop. At first they were just stuck in cups full of water, but now they've been put in a vase. In the beginning there were only a few simple but pretty flowers, but the number kept increasing. She muttered to herself, "Didn't I tell you to buy things you actually like for yourself, like books? Why are you buying things like this instead?" A few days later, during a meeting, Carly said, "Still, once you get used to it, it's actually kind of nice." Amy asked, "What is?" She said, "Having flowers at home." Amy hadn't expected her to say that, so she whispered to Ernest, "Old man, come with me for a second. Do you think she means an ordinary flower? Or could Flower be her pet name for her husband?" He asked back under his breath. "Hard to say. I've never been very good with figurative language." Amy said, "Aren't you supposed to have studied the humanities? Every time I need your help, you're useless." He told her, "I studied law." She muttered, "Look at her face. She's completely out of her mind. If that isn't the face of someone in love, then I don't know what is." Ernest said, "I think she's just sleepy." After signing the last document, Carly said, "The final confirmation of the paperwork is complete." She announced, "It's all over now. Everyone can go home." Everyone cheered excitedly. The people in the guild hurried to head home. Watching them leave the guild office, Carly said, "They're really excited." She looked at a flower nearby, reached out and picked one, then said, "After receiving so many, I suppose I should give something back too. I should find some time to go see Albert." Meanwhile, Albert was arguing with a servant about the color of a carpet. The servant said, "This is the sample of red fabric you asked for." Albert shouted, "The colors are different." The servant said, "Red is red, you damned butler. What difference is there?" Albert asked, "What are you talking about?" He shouted, as if there were a fire burning inside him. "This is crimson, and that is carmine. In the Marquis's household, we have always used the noble crimson dye for the carpets on the staircase. This is part of the mission to restore Lord Arad's long tradition. While he was speaking, Carly walked over and greeted them. How have you been, sir? It is a pleasure to see you again, Delrano, he said. Are my eyes deceiving me, or is it our guild master? You look remarkably well. Could this be the effect of marriage? Carly said, You may be the first and last person to ever say that to me. How is the work here progressing? He replied, Everything is going smoothly, though the butler you sent is far too particular. She said, I actually came to see whether that butler was satisfied. Albert gave her a distant greeting. Carly asked, Do you have to make that face every time you see me? He immediately said, Greetings, Lady Carly. She said, So you still call me that? I told you, you could just call me madam. Then she said, Actually, there's something I want to speak to you about, sir. Would you take a walk with me? As they walked in the garden, Carly said, The last time I saw this place, it was full of trees. It looks like a lot of them were cut down. Doesn't it feel too empty now? Albert answered, Once the large materials are brought up, we'll begin taking proper care of the garden. She said, I see. Seeing that you're doing so well puts me at ease, sir. I'm glad I entrusted this to you. Hearing that, Albert fell silent for a moment. Then he stopped, bowed his head, and said, I would like to thank you again for reclaiming this estate. Carly said, There's no need. I may have called a wedding gift, but really I also wanted to win your favor, sir. He said, I understand. Even so, I remain deeply grateful. She said, Hearing you speak, I finally understand who the young master takes after. Actually, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. You have probably already heard from the master that I received an invitation from the Sovereign Council. The Sovereign Council, that was the gathering of the oldest, most traditional, and most distinguished nobles in the kingdom. How could such an arrogant group possibly invite a mere merchant? Only a marquis and his wife would normally be qualified to receive such an invitation. She asked, Do you wish the young master to go as well? Albert replied, I do not have the right to make that decision for him. The Sovereign Council was an extremely closed circle. People could be cast out, but no one was ever added in. Would they really, out of goodwill, invite a commoner and a noble from a long-declined family to their banquet? And as an adult, would it truly be appropriate for me to bring a child to a place like that? Before coming to see Albert, she had first asked Ethelred whether he wanted to go. He asked the Sovereign Council's banquet. She said, Yes. Do you want to go? Looking at the letter, he answered, Well, if you go, then I'll go. Back in the present, she sighed and said, All right, sir. Please tell me everything you know about the Sovereign Council. Leave nothing out. A few days later, they went to a boutique to buy clothes for Ethelred. Ethelred had not known about this in advance. He read the name on the sign, Madame Belloff. A boutique, he asked. What are we doing at a boutique? I already have plenty of clothes. Carly said, Trust me, and be careful. He asked, Sorry? Careful of what? The door flew open with a bang. The owner of the boutique tightly embraced Carly at once. My, if it isn't Lady Carly. Carly said, Anita, I can't breathe. The woman kissed her and said, Oh my, how long has it been? You look like you've grown a little more. Carly said impatiently, We saw each other only a few weeks ago, and I brought someone with me. I think you'll be interested in him too. Anita turned to look at Ethelred, and her eyes instantly lit up. Good heavens, isn't this the guild master's husband? My, what a delicate little thing you are, and so pretty too. I'm Anita Belloff. She pinched his cheek. Ethelred introduced himself. Hello, I'm Ethelred what? Anita said, Oh, I could just gobble you right up. After a while, Carly told Ethelred about the banquet. He asked, A banquet? She winked at him and said, Yes, a banquet. If you're going to attend the Sovereign Council's banquet, you'll need new clothes, which is why we came here. He said, But, Carly, I thought you didn't want to go. Carly replied, It's not that I especially don't want to go. I'm just being cautious. To be honest, this was such a nuisance. If I'm going to face those traditional nobles head on, there's still a lot I need to learn. While taking Ethelred's measurements, Anita said, My goodness, heavens above, just look at this child. Hair as sleek as a raven's feathers, eyes shining like jewels, clean skin, such lovely shoulders. Truly first-rate stock, perhaps even the most handsome man in the entire kingdom. Ethelred felt embarrassed and said, Please don't say things like that. It's too much. But she replied with complete conviction, How could I possibly dress him in just anything? Please allow me the honor of putting the most marvelous clothes in the world on you. She started rummaging through the wardrobes as she said, No, none of these will do. Before you leave, I insist on having you try several more combinations. What suits a boy like this? a wide-collared shirt, or one with ruffles? Carly said, I'll leave it to you, Anita. She said, don't you worry your pretty little head. I'll make you the talk of the town. Carly recalled an earlier scene. Amy had kept pestering her. If you don't want to go, let me go in your place disguised as you. Harper, meanwhile, urged her to go. Where there are people, there's money. You have to go. In her heart, she said, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I don't want to go. And yet here I am now. My sweet peace and quiet. I never even had the chance to get to know you properly. Looking at her, Ethelred said, it's not like I wanted to attend the banquet. I was just a little curious. Thinking of his past, he thought, I don't know what nobles are really like. After all, I was raised as a commoner. But even so, I was never truly able to fit in among commoners either. So at the very least, I wanted to see nobles up close once. No matter what, I'm curious whether someone like me could feel any sense of belonging there. He wondered whether Carly understood these thoughts of his. While he was lost in thought, Anita had already started taking Carly's measurements. Carly asked, HM, do you need to measure me again, too? She said, I'm just checking whether anything has changed. You're still growing, madam. After all, hearing that, Ethelred involuntarily imagined Carly growing taller. Taller than himself. He thought, she's already this much taller than me, and she's still going to grow more. It feels like I haven't grown at all. At that moment, Carly said, all right, since you've already taken Lord Arad's measurements, please make him a few new outfits as well. For now, I think clothes for staying at home, for going out for breakfast, and for dinner should be enough. Ethelred said, I already have a lot of clothes. But she refused him. No, those are all ready-made. You need tailored clothes. Anita said, you'll also need white trousers, madam. I can make about 10 pairs right away to start with. Carly replied, oh, right, that's true. Then make those too. Ethelred said, why do I need that many trousers? Won't white trousers get dirty easily? Carly and Anita exchanged an incredulous glance. Then Carly said, that's exactly why people wear white. She explained, think about it. Do rich people wash their own clothes? They don't. They can pay someone else to do it. White clothes get dirty easily, which is exactly why nobles like to wear them. It's a symbol of their wealth. In a way, it's also a measure people use to judge one another. It's foolish, but that's reality, especially among the nobles of the Sovereign Council. At that point, she thought, and that's exactly why I didn't want to take him to a place like that. Hearing that, Ethelred thought, Carly is right. It isn't only clothes that need preparing for this banquet. I also have to steel myself to deal with the nobles there. But he still said aloud, that's unbelievably stupid. At that, Carly laughed. She said, right? I think so too. I've never seen anything so wasteful, but it's not something we can change. Those are the rules, so if we're going to play, we have to follow them. Don't think too much about it. We have a lot to prepare, and if you worry about every little thing, you'll wear yourself out. Ethelred looked puzzled. Prepare? She said, of course. First, you need to learn how to dance. We don't have much time. She told him, it's a banquet. You don't think people don't dance at banquets, do you? If you don't want those nobles looking down on you, you need to learn as quickly as possible. Ethelred was startled. What? Afterward, Ethelred began learning to dance. Under the teacher's guidance, he practiced the steps. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, now turn. Careful, very good, said the teacher. Let's stop here for now and take a break. While he was resting, Carly came over and asked, how is the practice going? She said, I happen to have a little time, so I came to check on you. How's your progress? The teacher told Carly that he had quickly mastered all the various dance steps, and that his remarkable talent made it hard to believe that he was a beginner. Carly said, that's impressive, my lord. Ethelred said, I'm still not used to it. I keep stepping wrong. She sat down on the sofa beside him and asked, is it really that hard? He answered, as for upper-class manners and the way they speak, I've already learned some of it. But when it comes to dancing, I'm still a little worried that I'll make mistakes. Carly said, even if you do make a mistake, just bluff your way through it. Your basic etiquette is already far better than mine, my lord. She winked at him and said, don't be so nervous. It's not as if you'll be alone. You have me, after all. Just then, Mary came over carrying tea. Sorry to interrupt your conversation. It looked like you were taking a break, so I brought some refreshments. It's iced herbal tea. Ethelred said, thank you. Mary said, you're welcome. If you need anything else, please call me. Excuse me. Carly said, thank you, Mary. Oh, miss, you should rest a little too. Then she added, there's one more thing, my lord. At the banquet, no matter what anyone offers you, think twice before you drink it. Just as he was about to take a sip, he froze. She continued, I've heard that in open places like banquet halls, it's best to choose clear, transparent drinks. Don't choose anything cloudy or mixed. Like cocktails, if someone hands you one, just take it and pretend to sip it. As for food, don't take plates that no one else has touched. Ethelred asked, do those secret power struggles from novels really happen? Carly replied, I'm not sure whether that's what you'd call it, but it does seem like there are subtle little moves being made under the table. Then she said, this is a secret, but even Mary is a secret spy planted by His Highness the Crown Prince. Ethelred gave her a skeptical look, not believing her. Carly said, oh dear, it seems you don't believe me. He said, I'm not falling for that kind of thing again. Last time you joked that people on the West Coast split rocks open and eat them as meals. She laughed and said, what? I was serious. He replied, I'm not that gullible. Then he said, come to think of it, I'm not sure whether this counts as a kind of power, but has your life gotten easier after getting married? She raised her hand, looked at her ring, and said, of course it has. It has driven away most of my suitors. It's truly a magical ring. Then she smiled and said, that's all thanks to you. Thank you. Looking at her, Ethelred's heart suddenly began to race. Then he stood up and said, you said you came because you had a little free time, right? He held out his hand to her and said, then, before you go, would you like to dance with me? She answered, all right. On the day of the ball, I hereby announce that the day has finally arrived. This is the guild master and the young master's first banquet. Is everyone ready to make these two look better than anyone else in the world? Everyone cheered. Woo! Watching this, Ethelred said, they seem even more excited than we are. Carly laughed and said, let them be. This is their job, after all. Now then, Amy came over and grabbed Ethelred by the shoulders. My, what are you doing here, guild master's husband? He said, I'm here to enjoy the show. Of course. Come on, we still have things to do, so hurry up and get changed. The two of them were dragged off separately by Amy and Anita to change clothes. As she was being pulled away, Carly said, see you in a bit. After changing, Carly said, I know I said I'd leave it to you, Anita, but doesn't this look a little too much like a wedding dress? Anita said, I heard you never had a wedding. This way, you can at least experience it a little. Ethelred also came out wearing a tailcoat. Anita said, ah, young master, perfect timing. Looking at him, she said, my lord, I wanted to highlight your classical, elegant beauty together with your unique aura. Carly exclaimed, wow, Anita, he's practically glowing. You even made a calla lily. Your hands are truly gifted. Ethelred said, so this flower is called a calla lily? I didn't know that. Carly said, your new clothes look very nice. Ethelred glanced at her, then looked away and said, you look very nice too. Carly immediately said, all right, let's go then. But just then Harper interrupted them. Madam, I have something to report. We found the accomplice of that baron from the break-in last time. Remember? The clerk from the front desk. Carly replied, I remember. He disappeared with the spare master key. What happened to him? Harper said, when that clerk was found, he was already dead. At that moment, they were sitting in the carriage on their way to the banquet, and Carly looked troubled, lost in thought. Ethelred asked, would it be better if we turned around and went home now? She answered, cancel our plans? This is the Sovereign Council's banquet. He said, yes, but she continued, it's fine. We still don't know anything yet. At present, nothing had been determined. Although they had found the man's body, they still did not know the cause of death, the estimated time of death, the whereabouts of the missing master key, or any of the other circumstances. She said, Harper will handle the parts she can deal with first, and, if necessary, she'll contact me. Don't think about it for now. First, let's go defeat the Sovereign Council. Ethelred was startled. She said, don't overthink it. Just enjoy yourself. After all, this is your first banquet. Look, we're almost there. Looking at the luxurious palace, Ethelred thought, so this is the Sovereign Council's banquet hall. Inside, the banquet buzzed with voices as people spoke among themselves. As soon as Carly and Ethelred arrived hand in hand, people began whispering, is that Lord Arad everyone has been talking about lately? Is the one beside him that merchant? A mere commoner merchant dares enter the Sovereign Council. Ethelred thought, they can't even be bothered to hide it. They're talking about us. Carly said, Lord Ethelred, I'm fine. You only need to smile. She's coming over. The host of the banquet was Countess Crawford. Carly greeted her. Good evening, my lady. Thank you for inviting me to the banquet. She said, of course. Please enjoy yourself, Miss Browning. No, that isn't right. It should be Lady Arad, shouldn't it? She said with a smile. Looking at her, Ethelred wondered. What did that mean? Carly and Ethelred clasped their fingers tightly together. People gathered around them and began talking all at once. Oh, so this is Lord Arad and his wife. His wife. She's nothing but a commoner. Ethelred thought. Every single one of these people is malicious. Everything they say is laced with malice. And what's more, all of that malice is directed at Carly. I was the one who wanted to come, and yet Carly has become their target. As for that young master's townhouse in the city, everyone knows it. When other people marry, the wife uses her dowry to buy land or jewels, but she used hers to buy a mansion. The moment those words were spoken, laughter broke out all around them. She really does know how to make a spectacle of herself. Maybe she simply had nothing else to offer. The mockery kept coming from every side. Hearing it, Carly thought their reaction is exactly what we expected. Harper and Amy were right. Now, what was it they told me to say in a situation like this? Right? That's it. Show off my money. So she said it's nothing. I simply used what I had on hand to express my feelings for him. When you have money, of course you should buy the things you like. Not just the mansion, this banquet too. It's our first banquet since our marriage, so I was a little shy, but also quite excited. To commemorate the occasion, I bought everything that caught my eye. I even studied makeup trends from overseas. Did you know? On the West Coast, people grind abalone shells and pearls into a fine powder and use it as highlighter. Even my gloves were custom-made for today. The lace on them was hand-stitched by the finest needleworker in the South. They're so thin, I can even wear my ring over them, which is why I can wear my wedding ring like this. Look, she showed them off to everyone. She had already calculated that this one pair of gloves cost about as much as 3 weeks' wages for an ordinary guild member, and the Browning Guild held exclusive rights to sell them. Basically walking money pouches. She had resolved that, since she was here anyway, she would make the most of the chance to advertise. So that was her plan, hidden beneath that lofty, ethereal air of hers. Carly intended to sell these as replacements for the goods destroyed in the fire. The nobles drawn to the shopping district by Carly would also end up buying even more luxury items. Then Carly said to the nobles, "We plan to sell these at the Lily Square shopping arcade in the central border during the upcoming festival season." Ethelred let out a quiet laugh. Carly asked, "HM, what is it?" He said, "Nothing. I'm just enjoying watching this." A little later, the Master of Ceremonies announced, "Next, the first dance of the evening will be performed by this banquet sponsor, Countess Crawford and Barondale, chairman of the Sovereignty Council." Looking at the Baron, Ethelred said, "There's someone whose hair is as white as Amy's." Carly said, "Amy's beauty is natural. I think the Baron's white hair is just from old age." Then she asked, "By the way, are you going to dance?" He replied, "I suppose so, but I'm not very good at dancing." "In that case, let's head to the back and try some food." Just then, someone called Carly's name. The instant she heard that voice, a look of disgust crossed Carly's face. Ethelred thought, "HM, what's with that expression?" As the man approached, he said, "Oh, long time no see. Why the face?" "It's so good to see you again, my dear Carly." With an irritated frown, Carly said, "Sorry, but I have no desire to be your dear, and I never was anything of yours." Noah laughed. "Huh, you've got a lot more backbone than the last time we met." She said, "I don't recall ever acting meek around you." Carly thought, Noah Lennox is far too eye-catching. Just standing beside him would make me the center of attention too. So she turned him down. "Sorry, I only have one dance partner tonight." Irritated by Noah, she said, "Don't I, darling? Let's go dance. I've been wanting to this whole time." Ethelred smiled too and said, "Of course, darling." Then let's go." Carly whispered to him, "Let's get out of his sight first." He whispered back, "All right." Once they began dancing, Ethelred asked, "How long do we have to keep this up?" She answered, "Until Noah is nowhere to be seen." Ethelred glanced over there. The man was indeed still standing there. He asked, "Who exactly is he?" Carly hesitated for a moment and said, He's one of my suitors." Ethelred noticed that split-second hesitation too. She continued, "But my lord, you've seen the noble registry, haven't you?" He answered, "I have." She said, "Noah is the eldest son of Count Lennox. I heard he'd gone to the south for a while, but it seems he's come back now." Ethelred asked, "Is he unsuitable as a marriage candidate?" She replied, "Absolutely. That entire family is probably plotting to swallow the Browning Guild whole." Ethelred said, "He doesn't look like that type." She replied, "Appearances can be deceiving. And besides, if I'm with him..." Ethelred asked, "What?" She immediately changed the subject. "It's nothing. Just focus on dancing for now. Turn." After they grew tired of dancing, they sat down at a table. Ethelred said, "Dancing really is difficult." She said, "I think so too." Then she rose from her seat and said, "No, we can't just sit here like this. Come on, let's get something to eat. We came all this way. We can't leave without trying anything. This is the Sovereignty Council. There must be all sorts of rare delicacies here." The amount of food was astonishing. Eterate asked, Carly, are we really going to eat all of this? It had taken quite a while just to bring everything over. She answered, that's right. We're eating all of it. Right now, food is the most important thing. Then which one should I try first? Looking at one dish, Thelred asked, what's this, Carly? Is this even food? She teased him, haha, of course. It's an oyster. It's seafood. I told you, didn't I? People on the West Coast crush up rocks and eat them. What's inside it? Ethelred asked. So that wasn't a joke? She said, you really don't trust me at all, do you? It's fresh and delicious. Oysters are a rare treat, and you don't get many chances to try them, so have one. Ethelred said, then I'll give it a try. But the moment he bit into it, he made a face of pure disgust. Carly quickly checked on him. Are you all right? Ethelred began coughing, and Carly handed him some water. At that moment, a noble child nearby said, a marquis who can't even eat oysters? How pathetic. Everyone started laughing at Ethelred for not knowing how to eat oysters. Another person said, exactly. I heard the Academy even accepts commoners now. If I had to sit with someone who can't even eat oysters, I'd withdraw. They kept spewing nonsense. Tastelessness is contagious, after all. Ethelred merely sighed and didn't take it to heart. He said to Carly, I'm all right now. Thank you, Carly. She replied, my. You really are good at letting words like that roll off you, my lord. There are plenty of immature children like that in the South, too. Oh, of course, I saw plenty of them when I was little, too. Suddenly, a voice called out, so here you are. I've been looking for you everywhere. Carly immediately grew irritated and said, you again? Honestly, she said, go bother someone else. Noah replied, what? Am I a nuisance now? Once a woman is married, having a few lovers is exactly the sort of thing a woman of elegance should do. Carly said, do you just say whatever comes into your head? There's a child here. Noah laughed. Good heavens, that really wounds me. Aren't you going to introduce him to me? Ethelred thought, come to think of it, I've never seen Carly dislike anyone this much. Noah held out his hand and said, greetings, Lord Arad. I am Noah, son of Count Lennox. He also extended his hand, stood up, and said, I'm Ethelred. It's a pleasure to meet you. The two shook hands. Noah asked, are you sure about that? I'm a man who fully intends to stay close to your wife. As he said that, Carly cut in, Noah, you can't seriously be, but before she could finish, a servant interrupted. Forgive the intrusion, but I have an urgent message for the head of the Browning Guild. Startled, Carly thought, an urgent message at a time like this? Could it be about the inn staff? She said, take me to the messenger at once. The servant led the way. This way, please. As she walked, she thought, even if the body has already been found, there's no way they could determine the cause and time of death in just a few hours. And even if they had, it wouldn't be important enough to warrant an urgent message. Did something else happen? Or could it be? Then the messenger called out loudly. When she reached him, he said, my lady, they are requesting that you return immediately. Carly asked, so suddenly? Why? He replied, I was not told the reason. I believe it would be best for you to return and see for yourself. He handed something to her. Yes, here it is. She looked at the card, then turned to Noah and said, I have to leave. I'm sorry to take my leave so early. Noah said, I'll explain to the host that you had to leave early on private business. Carly said, thank you. It's nothing. Helping you would be my pleasure. Carly cut him off and said, let's go. My lord. Once outside the palace, Carly said to the attendants, we must return as quickly as possible. Sasha, you're the best rider, aren't you? Too many people will only slow us down. Everyone except Sasha stays here. Sasha said, but my lady, if I'm the only one escorting you, it'll be dangerous. And Mr. Mason isn't here right now either. We should at least take a few more guards. Carly said, no, the two of us are enough. My lord, you must stay here as well. The moment I arrive, I'll send the carriage back for you. Ethelred objected, I'm going with you. Carly said, good heavens, no. Stay here. It's dangerous. He grabbed her sleeve and said, that's exactly why I can't let you go alone. Because he raised his voice, are husband and wife. At those words, all the servants, along with Carly, froze. After saying that, he climbed into the carriage. Carly immediately said, wait, why would you bring that up, Lord Ethelred? Didn't I tell you not to get in? After he settled inside, Carly sighed and said, honestly, why is he so stubborn? Then she climbed into the carriage as well and said, the road will be rough, so be careful not to bite your tongue. Ethelred nodded at that. Let's go, Sasha. Meanwhile, another messenger arrived at the banquet hall. Noah asked, are you from the Browning Guild? She answered yes. That's right. He said, I wonder what could be so urgent that they sent more than one messenger. Carly and Lord Arad have already received word and left. Something must have gone wrong. The messenger looked confused and said, What? I'm the only messenger the guild sent. Everyone was shocked to hear that. The Countess said, Good heavens. Then who was the one who came earlier? As they hurried back, Ethelred said, Tell me now. When you tried to make me stay behind, you said it would be dangerous, but the guild's message only said you were to return at once. Yet you were certain it would be dangerous, as if you already knew. As if you know something. Can you tell me why? Hearing that, Carly suddenly burst out laughing. Haha, she asked, so that's why you insisted on coming with me? So the whole husband and wife thing was just an excuse. She laughed again. Ethelred, embarrassed, said, What's so funny about that? Carly mimicked his tone and said, it's just, haha, it's too funny. We are husband and wife. Then she said, all right, I'll explain, so don't be so angry. After all, we are husband and wife. She continued, the identity card that Messenger showed me was most likely fake. People like Harper, who stay by my side, can usually handle matters on their own. In other words, they don't actually need me. And yet they sent a messenger I'd never seen before to call me back. Ethelred asked, so that messenger was a fake? She said, exactly. It's a trap. They were trying to lure the head of the Browning Guild onto a deserted road in the middle of the night. What did you say? Just then, the carriage suddenly rattled violently and came to a stop. Carly asked, what is it, Sasha? She said, it's the police. They want to inspect us. I'm sorry. I had to stop so suddenly. Carly thought, an inspection in the dead of night? Someone outside said, please open the door. We need you to cooperate with an inspection. Ethelred said, Carly, I'll open it. She refused. No, I will. As she opened the door, she said, good evening. You must be working hard at such a late hour. The door had barely opened halfway when someone pressed a knife to her throat and said, got you, Carly Browning. Carly was startled. Seeing this, the Baron's son said, Ethelred shouted, Carly. She said, it's all right. Stay calm. The attacker said, you're living quite comfortably, aren't you? But because of you, I'm about to be thrown out onto the streets. Carly gripped the door handle, her body trembling slightly. The man laughed and said, are you scared? If you're frightened now, it's still too soon. And imagine this. There are police here too. Even your cute little guard has already been caught. You're finished. Come on, why don't you beg me to spare your life? Then he roared, beg me. Carly kept reminding herself, stay calm. I need to think of something. First, I have to get rid of this knife. I'm still holding the door handle. That means I still have a chance. She glared at him and said, you're the one who's finished. She slammed the door shut. The man's hand was instantly caught in the gap, and he screamed. My hand stuck. Carly said, my lord, help me hold it shut. Carly and Ethelred both pulled hard on the carriage door. The attacker shouted, this childish little trick? Well, let me go. Carly said, the childish one here is you. Then she shouted, Sasha? It was a signal to her. Seeing this, Sasha said, you idiots. Did you really think I'd just sit there obediently? She swiftly grabbed the attacker and slammed him to the ground. I only pretended to be captured. She quickly subdued several of his accomplices, then said to her lady, it's taken care of. The Baron's son and the others still tried to pull that man free. Pull the door, not me. The door. Carly was still holding on to it and said, well done, Sasha. Then she said to Ethelred, all right, let go on 3, understood? He replied, understood. Then she counted 1, 2, 3. The moment they let go, the men toppled over in a heap. Looking at them sprawled on the ground, Carly smiled faintly, then shut the carriage door and said, Sasha, go. Yes, my lady. The Baron's son immediately ordered his men, catch them, no matter what it takes. As they fled, the Baron's son and his accomplices pursued them on horseback. He shouted, stop, Browning. Carly was trembling all over. She kept reminding herself to stay calm. She thought, no matter how many tricks they have left, they can't use any of them if they can't catch us. If we can just hold out until the rescue team arrives. I was so shocked that I forgot all about him. Then she asked, my lord, are you all right? He answered, oh yes, I'm Euphine. Just then, a distress flare shot into the night sky. Ethelred flinched in surprise. Carly said, it's all right. We're sending up a distress signal. The guard will be here soon. Until then, pain shot through the wound on her neck. Ethelred asked, Carly, you're hurt? She answered, I'm fine. It's only a scratch. He asked again, who are those people? She said, do you remember the man who barged into the inn and tried to attack me? It's him. I kicked him hard in the groin back then. But the more I think about it, the angrier I get. Then she stood up, opened the window, and shouted outside, did you come all this way just to announce that you're infertile now? You pervert. If I'd known, I would've. Her words were cut off by a gunshot. A bullet grazed past her and her expression changed instantly. What? He has a gun? As he chased after them, the Baron's son thought, "You bitch. If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up like this? This is all because of you." Then he said, take this. He caught up with the carriage, pointed the gun at them, and said goodbye. Carly Browning. Then he pulled the trigger. Carly lunged from her seat to save Ethelred. She was wounded while protecting him. Ethelred asked Carly, "Are you all right?" She said, "I'm fine, Her shoulder was in terrible pain. Meanwhile, Sasha desperately urged the horses on. Faster, higher. At last their carriage gained some distance and left the Baron's son behind. Ethelred thought, "We've finally put some distance between us, but Carly is badly hurt. We can't keep going like this. I have to think of something. If only I knew how to fight." Suddenly, they heard a thunderous rumbling from ahead. Ethelred thought, "What's that sound? Someone's coming." Mason Hill, captain of the Browning Guard, appeared. He shouted, "While I was away, you dared to go this far? You'd better understand one thing. I won't let any of you bastards leave here alive." He arrived and saved them. The next day, Harper was furious. Carly said, Harper snapped, "Calm down. So you knew from the start that the first messenger's identification was fake." Glowering at her, she said, "That means you knew the message was fake, and you knew it would be dangerous. You must have known everything. You even left the guards behind because you knew there'd be trouble, and yet you still chose to personally follow that messenger." Carly said, "Harper, I was hurt, you know." Harper shot back, "And whose fault is it that you went after them and came back injured? You even took the young master with you." Carly sank onto the sofa and let out a sigh. "What else was I supposed to do? He was obviously after me, so how could I just ignore it? And I clearly told the young master not to come with me. He insisted on coming." Ethelred said guiltily, "I'm sorry. I had no idea what was going on, and I still insisted on coming along." Carly immediately got up from her seat and said, "Hey, that's not what I meant." He continued, "If I hadn't been there, you wouldn't have been hurt so badly trying to protect me." With a trace of impatience, Carly said, "So badly hurt? Didn't Dr. Arden say I'd recover soon?" But inwardly she thought, "Somebody please save me." Harper went on, "I was a little harsh just now, but back to the point. We've already reported Lord Beckett's son, and his knife and revolver have also been submitted as evidence." Carly asked, "Where did he get that gun?" "I don't think an ordinary nobleman could get his hands on something like that so easily." Harper told her, "One of the gang members works for the security department. Looks like he got it through him." She handed her a document and said, "Also, this is the compensation statement for the employee who died during work hours. I filled in the amount according to guild regulations." Carly looked at the document and thought. According to the captured gang member's testimony, when they attacked the inn, that employee refused to hand over the key. Because of that, they accidentally killed him. Afterward, they abandoned the body and left. Later, when they heard from the security department member that the body had been discovered, they once again claimed the attack had been unintentional. Shaking her head, she instructed, "Double the compensation. That would be more appropriate." Harper looked at her, then said, "I'll do that." At Lily Square Department Store, which belonged to the Browning family, Carly said as they climbed the stairs, My lord, I'm really fine. You don't have to keep following me around." Ethelred replied, "Until you recover, I'm going to be your arm." She said, "Seriously, I'm fine." The attack had been quietly covered up. Since a member of the security department had been involved, it was only natural that the department opposed any media exposure. Besides, Carly also wanted the guild guards to maintain their image of being unshakable. So the matter was handled in silence, with both sides tacitly agreeing. But just because the matter had been quietly buried didn't mean her injuries would vanish too. And so it had come to this: high collar, long sleeves, and an overcoat with a capelet, all to hide the injury on her left arm. Ethelred said, "You got hurt because of me, and because you have to prepare for the royal birthday. You can't even rest. I'm supposed to be your so-called husband, but I can't help you at all. I feel like I'm nothing but a burden to you. Worse still, you were the only one who got hurt." Carly said, "WH, what are you talking about? It's far better that I was the one hurt than you. Nothing good came of it, but I'm really relieved that you weren't injured." Patting his head, she said, "So don't blame yourself. As long as you're safe, that's enough for me." "Okay, Ethel." Hearing that, Ethelred thought, Carly called me by my name for the first time. She even called me Ethel, not Lord Ethel or your grace. Blushing, he turned his head and said, "Carly, why did we come to the department store? Aren't there still 2 hours before opening?" Carly told him, "Today's the first day of the festival. The first day always gets the biggest crowd, so we always hold a special rally." "A special rally?" The Royal Birthday Festival ran for 5 days in total, from 2 days before the king's birthday to 2 days after. During those 5 days, the whole district revolved around the celebration. A peak season like this was crucial for merchants. That's right. You can already tell how busy headquarters is, can't you? But the department store is a whole different matter. Just watch. Every year at this time, it's spectacular. As they looked on, one servant was giving a pep talk to the others. She said, "Everyone, the royal birthday is finally here. In these short 5 days, our abilities will be put to the test." Then she shouted, "Are you ready for this grand clearance sale? Are you ready to work like hell until the warehouse is empty? Are you ready to fight beside me, sell out everything in Lily Square, and write a glorious page in history?" Carly added, "And the glory that comes with your efforts also comes with bonuses." Ethelred thought that Carly's voice was not especially loud. It reached every corner of the department store, like the crisp sound made when a pebble breaks the stillness of water. At that moment, he saw the eyes of those kind-faced employees instantly blaze with fierce determination. Bonuses, motivation. Sell, sell, keep selling. If someone drops, leave him behind. We're going to sell every last speck of dust in this store. We're going to be this year's kings of sales. Carly said with a smile, "The future of the Browning Guild is bright indeed. They're full of spirit." Ethelred nodded, then smiled too, and said, "It certainly seems so." And so, amid thunderous cheers, the festival began. Central Marches, the busiest street in the kingdom, centered around Lily Square. It was divided into two main areas. One side was lined with upscale shops, including Anita Boutique, while the other was a bustling, ordinary commercial district. Ethelred asked, "All right, but where are we going?" She said, On the royal birthday, you eat cake. It's part of the sales strategy, but we should enjoy ourselves too. We're here, Cat and Mouse Bakery." They had ordered a cake. The shopkeeper said, "Here you are." "Thank you, sir. People always buy their royal birthday cakes from Cat and Mouse." A servant said, "My lady, let me carry that for you." She said, "Thank you." The shopkeeper said, "Oh wow, is this your husband? Nice to meet you. I'm the baker at Cat and Mouse. My name's Jerry." Ethelred answered, "Oh, I'm Ethel." Laughing, Jerry said, "Haha, you're even smaller than I heard. You're like a little mouse." "A little mouse." Carly burst out laughing when she heard that. Then the owner said, "Wait here. This is what happens when you don't eat enough." He began stuffing bread into Ethelred's hands. "Take this and this too. Good, good, eat it all." Then he told Ethelred, "You need to eat more and grow big and strong. That's what it takes to do your duty as a husband." Carly laughed and said, "That's right. If you want to catch up to me, you still have a long way to go." Ethelred called out to stop her, "Carly." Carly laughed again and then said, Sorry, I laughed a little too loudly." Just then, Noah came over and said, "I didn't expect to see you here." The moment she heard that voice, Carly felt irritation rise in her. That voice. Noah said, "Long time no see. And it's good to see you too, Ethelred." Ethelred replied, "Oh yes." Suppressing her annoyance, Carly asked, "Mr. Noah, what brings the son of an earl to a place like this?" He answered, "My sister wanted this shop's royal birthday cake. As her brother, I couldn't exactly let her wish go unfulfilled." Carly muttered to Ethelred, "This idiot turns into a complete fool whenever his sister is involved. Actually, he's a complete fool all the time, so don't stay around him too long." Noah said, "I can't hear you." As they were talking, Jerry asked Noah, "Sir, do you have a reservation?" Noah froze for a moment, then gave an awkward laugh. A reservation? Clearly, he had no idea. Jerry said, "The quantity is different every year, so all royal birthday cakes have to be reserved in advance." Carly then said, "We didn't really think you could just stride in a Cat and Mouse and buy a cake on the spot, did you?" "Oh dear, what a shame." Ethelred added, "Would you at least like some bread?" Noah said, "No, thank you." Carly started laughing again. While they spoke, Noah wiped at his eyes and said, "Since I couldn't buy what I wanted, I suppose I'll have to go home. I didn't see a guild carriage outside, so I assume you didn't come with one. Would you like to ride in mine?" Carly thought, "He's as annoying as ever." Carly said, "There's no need. We can call a public carriage. Let's go, Ethel." Their carriage was still being repaired after the attack. Ethelred said, but just then, Noah suddenly spoke. "I can't just let you leave like this. After all, your arm is injured." Hearing that, Carly froze. "I thought I'd hidden it well." Still, it wasn't surprising. This was the Lennox family. They had probably known about the attack long ago. They certainly had that kind of reach. But I didn't want to stir up a bunch of gossip just by riding in his carriage. Noah said, "You'll get in, won't you?" After that, in the end, both Ethelred and Carly got into the carriage. Carly thought, so I ended up riding in it after all. I just hope this doesn't invite any unnecessary talk. Noah said, "Oh, right. Could you visit my grandfather sometime soon? He seems to want to see you." Looking thoroughly annoyed, Carly asked, "Your grandfather? Why?" Noah said, "He likes you more than he likes me." She said, "That makes no sense. Every time he sees me, he nitpicks everything." Noah said, "That's just his way of showing affection." Listening to their conversation, Ethelred thought, "I can't figure out Carly and Noah's relationship. At first I thought they didn't get along, but looking at them now, they seem quite close. I feel like I can't insert myself at all." Noah said, "He's also curious about your husband." Ethelred was startled and asked, "What? About me?" Carly asked, "Why would he be interested in Ethel?" Noah answered, "Who knows? I can't exactly know what he's thinking." Carly thought, "These days, there are two great powers dividing the commercial district in half. One is the Browning family, and the other is the Lennox Sons Company." As the founder of Lennox Sons and Noah's grandfather, Lord Lennox, had originally been nothing more than a common-born merchant who built his fortune from scratch. Later, by aligning himself with a noble family, he obtained the title of Lord. As for his personality, it was absolutely dreadful. She then said, "Every year, we cut the cake at noon on the royal birthday. If your sister still wants royal birthday cake, tell her to come by." Hearing that, Noah said, "Thank you. When she visits, grandfather will come too." After dropping them off, Noah said, "Well then, I'll speak with you then. Take care of yourself." Carly replied, "I can take care of myself, so there's no need for you to worry." After he left, Carly said, "I've got a headache. Let's go back, Ethel." At that moment, Ethelred said, Carly, may I ask how long you've known this Noah person?" She answered, "A few years." "Why?" He asked, "So were you friends before?" He thought, "There's nothing between them, right? But I still can't help caring." Carly replied, "Yes, we were. At least, we still were just after my 20th birthday. Until he proposed to me.